15 jersey was on Mr. Conor O'Shea. It was Brisbane, Australia, 1999. The 13 jersey was worn for the first time by Brian O'Driscoll. And fortunately for all of us, he's still wearing them. Here's our appreciation on the day of 100 caps.
I think if you're picking a World 15, he would definitely be in there.
And through the hands of Driscoll's in!
He gets a sniff and an opportunity to score tries. He does do that.
O'Driscoll, and he unlocked them. Dennis Hickie sees the gap and goes.
I think he's the best player I've ever played with.
Brian O'Driscoll! Class! Absolute class!
In the 10 years I was playing, I don't think there was anyone on the other teams that was any better than him either.
What marked Brian out as different was the ability to create space.
O'Gara's pass is out to O'Driscoll, back inside O'Driscoll!
I mean, that to me is what back play is all about.
Absolute magic from the Irish captain!
And O'Driscoll had that right from the off.
I've never seen a player like him.
And O'Driscoll! O'Driscoll at pace! Brian O'Driscoll! Brilliant!
You just have to say that he is one of the greatest players to ever play the game. To make 100 test matches at the highest level and to still be playing at your peak is very, very rare. If you look through that pantheon of players who've made their 100th, at their 100th, they were usually very much on the wrong side of the curve. And Brian's not.
He obviously just has fantastic natural skills as a rugby player. You know, he has great hands. He's got great vision. He's able to read the game really well. He's able to see a gap really well.
You know, he's been able to sometimes create things with limited opportunities, and he's done it incredibly well. And you know, I think that when he does eventually retire at some stage, he'll go down as one of the legends of the game.
I urge everybody, I say it time and again, to watch him in action. This is why, to my way of thinking, he is the greatest player we have ever produced. We've had fantastic attacking talents in the past. People will talk about Jack Kylers before my time. They'll talk about Mike Gibson. But with Brian, what you've got is the total package.
The thing that sets Brian apart from all the others, and he's the best player I've ever coached because he's good at everything. He's a good defender. He's good at the ruck, good attacker. But he wasn't always great at losing it. But once you teach him something, and this is the key, he's the fastest learner of any guy I've ever coached.
I knew when Brian got a knock against when Paul O'Connell's knee hit off his head in Twickenham a fortnight ago, that there's no way he was not going to be available for this game, because he just has that resilience, desire, appetite that he wants to be out there all the time. It's where he's at his most comfortable. And I just think we in Irish rugby have been so fortunate to have lived through the O'Driscoll years.
It's not an accident he's found himself the best player in the world. He has great skills, but a lot of players have great skills. It's the fact that he's constantly been able to develop them and make them better and better and better. And I think people don't understand the amount of work he's had to do to get himself to that stage.
He's someone who doesn't always take himself seriously in terms of he's pretty relaxed, and I think that's one of the traits that he has, that he's fiercely determined, but he's also, there's the wit and humour and humility there that I think it makes him such a great individual that he is.
And I don't think we appreciate him enough. He's really a national treasure.
And everything that is said about the guy he deserves, because he is a very, very special talent.
Well, George, looking at the pantheon of the great players, the greatest we've ever produced?
The greatest of the professional era, because you can't compare two eras. But I mean, it hasn't been all sweetness, and like this 100 caps, he wasn't a natural captain. I think he might have been appointed captain too early. He struggled with maybe the social and commercial pressures of being a superstar. But what he has done, and this is why today I applaud 100 caps for Brian O'Driscoll, he has proved himself to be a warrior, a man and a captain, and possibly the greatest centre I've ever seen.
All the bits that make the great rugby player: the ballet dancer, the earth lifter, the tough guy, the sprinter, the huge psychological strength, the pride, he's got them all.
Yeah, I think what some of the guys, especially Denis, Hickie, mentions the most for me is that he's been able to reinvent himself. A lot of those players that have reached 100 caps, as Matt Williams said, come to the end of their career. He's taken a situation where a few years ago he might have lost his top end pace. He's turned that round to become one of the best defensive players. If you take his own individual skills, not only was he always one of the best attacking players, he's also one of the best defensive
He's like
players.
a wing forward.
And he's also a team man now. He's the kind of guy that doesn't want the fuss about him today even. He's leading from the front every game. He's one of these go over the trenches. He's an amazing player. And he's going down one of the greatest players of all time.
Conor, since '96 the game went professional, Brian Driscoll's almost reinvented the professional game for a back and for a centre and for a captain.
Listen, I remember the very first training session he arrived along to, and the minute you saw just the skill set he had, just how special he was, absolutely incredible. And he's been eulogised. People have said everything that can be said.
You remember that day in Brisbane?
He is well, I do, because I broke my jaw as well. But, so I definitely remember. He definitely. Tom said that, glad. But Brian O'Driscoll is the single reason. Above all, we've had great players in this era we have. He is the reason Irish rugby has been elevated. I have no doubt about it.
Didn't he turn around that day in Brisbane and drop a goal in his first match?
As I said, I was off with a broken jaw, so I can't really remember that match. But Brian O'Driscoll, I keep on saying, the reason Ireland has had this golden era, he has raised the level of everyone's expectation as player,
but he worked on it,
as motivator.
His kicking game wasn't perfect. Some of his
it wasn't perfect, but the skill set were there.
But he worked so hard on
Eddie O'Sullivan said to me on the radio last night that he didn't make the schools team at Blackrock, so he had to work on it and work on it and work on it. So for all the kids watching us who didn't make the schools team, remember Brian O'Driscoll.
And he listened and he took in. He's a sump for information. He said, "I'm good at this. I'm good at this. This is what I need to work on." And
he wasn't playing in that position. No. And you know, in life, in rugby and everything, it's about being picked in the right position.
Okay. Well, there's one more compliment to come. It's to come from Declan talking to Tracy.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, a lovely day here at Croke Park today, and a fantastic match, I'd say, in prospect. Declan's joined me as usual now. Declan, first of all, a huge milestone for Captain Brian O'Driscoll.
Well, it is a great day, any day you put on an Irish jersey, but I suppose the first is significant, but then, 100 is probably the next one after that, isn't it? And very few players are fortunate enough to achieve that, so for Brian and his family, I think it's a great day, and hopefully they'll enjoy it.
We've got a good record against the Welsh. How are we going to continue that today?
Well, we have a good record away from home. The one at home is, that's what we need to turn over today now, and we're quite cognizant of that. The Welsh, they're going to test us for the 80 minutes. We know that. That's the fun of playing into test rugby, and they'll challenge us in all places. I think as against the French, they went wide in the first half, but then they managed to start breaking down through the middle and creating gaps that way. So there'll be the usual 3, 4, 5 different types of game during the 80 minutes.
And all of that, but rugby is a physical sport. It needs hard men down dark alleys, and here is our young enforcer.